1031 WRNR. It's Rob Timm, and very happy to be joined by an artist whose work I've enjoyed for 4 records now. I confess I missed the first 2 EPs, but I've loved every album. It's Robin Pecknold of Fleet Foxes. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, all things considered. How do these strange days find you?
Well, I'm grateful to have this distraction of finishing this album and then I guess now talking about it a bit. And
Hmm.
that's kind of, compounded or that's, contrasted with obviously this wild situation we're all in. But music has been a real safe haven and a real source of, uh, of strength, I guess, the last few months.
Right, and this I get the sense from everything I've read about the process of the making of this record is obviously, I mean, nothing has gone to expectations this year,
Yeah.
and that includes any artist's, I suppose, creative process over the course of these past months, and that really kind of impacted the record.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I think, I didn't work for the first three, for March, April, May at all. Just the first 3 months was just kind of this, watching in horror and just staying in lockdown. And, but I was in a position where I had a bunch of music finished, but no lyrics really. So it kind of ended up being like a lot of the, reflections and perspective shifts that we've all been experiencing. There's been a lot of, in all this chaos, I feel like there's been a lot of good reframing of priorities for people, and that's happened for me for sure. And I if that hadn't informed the lyrics, I don't know what would have, because 2019 was, I mean, I would prefer it to be a supercharged economy, but I was having trouble keeping up a little bit in 2019.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there we did have like a forced hitting of the pause button
Yeah,
on everything.
totally.
Now, you chose to release this album not just on the autumnal equinox, but very specifically at like 9:31 a.m.,
Yeah.
spot on the equinox. Why did you want to do that?
Well, I guess in July, it was clear I had enough lyrics done and the record was well mapped out enough that I was like, I can get this done for September 1st or something, and if we put it out digitally September 22nd, we can make the equinox. And then something about the kind of process, those last few months of working on the album just felt really charmed and really like energized and kind of like cosmically blessed or something. And so I would just read all these little, coincidences into the, I was like, oh, it's the equinox is on the 22nd. 2 plus 2 is 4. It's the fourth album. Oh, it's at 13:31 Universal Time, and that's 3 plus 1 is 4, and there are two of those. And then the first lyric of the record is Summer All Over, so it's like that's a total coincidence.
Right.
The last lyric of the album is now the quarter moon is out. Also a total coincidence that is the phase the moon was entering. So it was really just kind of a, and I'm not that much of a woo-woo kind of person, but I guess in the phase that the record was in, it was kind of a woo-woo phase. And it was just like, it's fate. It has to be this way. And, who cares about physical sales at this moment? It
Right.
just got to get the music out. Yeah.
And also, I can do it, so why not?
Yeah. And, if I've always wanted to do that. And if there's ever a time to try it, it felt like now to me.
Right. Well, it works very well for me because for whatever reason, and perspective is everything, and maybe it has to do with the way I feel this time of the year, but Fleet Foxes has always been weirdly an autumnal feeling band to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, if you'll allow me to be just kind of a geek for a minute, is
Yeah.
I'm a drummer, and I've always really appreciated the way you both do and sometimes don't use percussion in your work. And
Yeah.
on this new record, you've got like 3 really fantastic drummers working
Yeah.
with you. Why those 3?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you asked that, because that was a huge focus recording wise. I think like the snare drum on the 2 and 4 was something that we'd always avoided, and
Yeah,
did more of a kind of like wall of sound, boom, 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 kind of, more tom heavy, kind of like atmospheric drums. And on this
very
one, yeah,
layered. Yeah.
I was just listening to a lot more, drum heavy music, I guess, and I wanted it to feel really stable, and I think drums are the way you do that with a song. You have
Hmm.
this grounding element that is also like, I feel like in terms of the vocal melodies, there's a lot of syncopation in the vocal melodies that becomes interesting when there's a grounding, stable beat beneath it.
Right.
Um, and I think as far as those three drummers, Chris Bear is someone I've always admired from his work in Grizzly Bear and his
Yeah.
solo work. He's just an incredible drummer and a really great guy. And it was I felt like, it was with them being on a bit of a hiatus, it was a great opportunity to finally ask him, to play on some music I had. And
Hmm.
then with Homer Steinweiss, he's an incredible drummer, and he, with all of his work with the Dap Kings and Mark
Yeah.
Ronson, and this like perfect soul drummer, and um, it worked out that the songs that didn't have drums yet kind of needed Homer, but I only met him through Beatrice when we started working at his studio in
Really.
July. But it was, one of those like cosmic feeling things where it's like, oh, this is the perfect guy to do these tracks. And then
Hmm.
it also turned out that, he had played with Richard Swift in a band called the Arcs a few years back. So I got getting Homer to play on a song that references Richard Swift was really meaningful to me,
Uh-huh.
and then the other guy, Joshua Yeager, is a great drummer, and he played with Angel Olsen and a lot of other artists, and he was supposed to be the drummer on David Berman's last tour that didn't end up happening because of David's passing. So
Hmm.
he's on that song as well, in the song that references David Berman, in addition to Richard Swift. So getting those two guys to play together in a way that Homer did with Richard in the Arcs on a song that references people that they both had experience playing with, was
And loved. Yeah.
me. And that's a long-winded explanation, but no one's really asked that yet. So
Well, thank you very much. Because
thank you.
it's, I suppose it is true that you never know which facets are going to speak louder to anyone who's receiving your art.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I get the sense that you're actually kind of okay with the idea of not being able to tour behind this record. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think like you know, I wouldn't say okay. I mean, I think it's I'm going to make the most of it. You know, creatively, I think there's now going to be at least a year before that's a viable
Right.
choice for anyone, and that's enough time for me to get another set of songs together for sure. And I think you know the so the thing, I feel like extensive touring is the thing you always need a break from in a career like this. It's not
Sure.
the making of the music. That's always, if you're in the right state of mind, making music is always healing, and
Hmm.
always can always be a source of like joy, and the touring is the thing that kind of exhausts you after a couple of years, and you need to take a couple of years off
Right.
and recharge a little bit. So to not have that kind of up and down, start stop, switching from creative mindset to performing mindset, I'm just going to make the most of it, I think,
Yeah.
and find a silver lining. Obviously, there's it's a huge lift to any group, being able to do it for a living. That's because through touring at this point
Right.
for the most part. But I'm lucky that this isn't the debut, and we're not you know borrowing our friend's van to go on our first tour, and
Yeah.
anyone in that position I have a deep sympathy for right now.
Hmm. Yeah. So does that mean, and if we're still in that creative mode, might I suggest you release a another album on the vernal equinox?
Why not? Totally.
No
Why
pressure.
not? No, I mean, I think it's interesting how those things, because the equinox, that's why I wanted to put the whole album out at once on the equinox. Is like, oh, it's harvest time. It's like
Yeah.
when the bounty. When you kind of when there's a real bounty of things, you know, to enjoy,
Hmm.
and so I was thinking about ways, to kind of what the other phases mean, and what the other kind of the equinoxes and the solstices mean, and then how to make music, how to release music with those kind of connotations in mind. Totally.
Right. Right. Well, the album is Shore. It is the fourth full length release from Fleet Foxes, and a really, I think, beautiful evolution in what you do. And so I will absorb and love this record for now. And if you choose to stay on a roll, that's perfectly okay with me too.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, Robin Pecknold of Fleet Foxes, thanks so much for joining us on R&R.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much.